Like DOGE and Elon Musk, or perhaps not Elon Musk, because since he's talking about leaving DOGE here pretty soon, but he said he's going to still stay involved in all thing DOGE. They said they want to go ahead and have access to pretty much everything. So we're going to talk about that today. So my name is Ed Weir, and I ran the third business Social Security office in the country. I wanted to talk about the attempt to get into your Social Security records. Okay, so the judge basically said that, okay, you want access, full access to all Social Security data. And Social Security records, they have pretty much everything. They have all your earnings throughout your life. They have who you're married to, when you were divorced, who your kids are, how much they made, their dates of birth. If you ever file for disability benefits, then they have all your medical records, your prescriptions, what type of prescriptions you take, what doctors you go to, what you go to those doctors for. Social Security has everything, and they've always kind of siloed that information. It's like if other agencies want it, basically tough. If the person doesn't specifically, if you don't specifically say, hey, Social Security, send this to the VA or do something like this, then Social Security doesn't do it. In terms of audits, so the judge is saying, okay, Elon Musk and DOGE, you want to go in there and check out all the records for fraud, waste, and abuse. Beautiful. Okay, perfect. Social Security does that on a regular basis. In my office and all offices throughout the country, private accounting firms that know kind of what they're doing, Ernst and Young and different companies, come into Social Security and they audit those records to make sure everything is done correctly. And guess what? Social Security has passed 31 out of the last audits. Not so much with the Department of Defense, but Social Security has always passed those audits. My office, we always passed on flying colors. But there's certain things that have to be limited. The people that have access to those records, like for me, having access as a Social Security employee, an old, now retired, but had to go through the FBI background check and all that kind of stuff. Same type of thing with Ernst and Young or any other companies like that. They have to go through background checks to get access to the federal buildings and to get access to the records. And even then, when these people, for instance, they came into my office, they always they didn't get the information of the particular person. They just use it as client A, client B, client C, client D, or something like that. And then in those particular, so they didn't get the personal information, the Social Security number, the date of birth, and stuff like that. They just look at it and they didn't know whose record they're looking at. They just look at the record. They're not allowed to connect the two. So they do audits like that. And they've been doing audits like that for decades. But so that's how it's actually supposed to be done, because it's not their business. You didn't provide that organization, that private organization, access to all of your medical records with your names on it. They're there to audit, but they're not there to, do essentially a fishing expedition, which this judge basically said DOGE is doing a fishing expedition. And one of the reasons I would argue that they're also doing a fishing expedition is because they don't know really what they're doing. It's kind of obvious. If it's not obvious to you, then unfortunately, you haven't been watching my channel. They don't know what they're doing. Number one, they went in there and they said, there's 20 million people over 120 years old that are receiving Social Security benefits. And you notice they haven't found one dime of money going to those people over 120 years old, because as I said, when they first came out with that misinformation, they don't know what they're looking at. And it's proven that they don't know where they're looking at, because they haven't found one penny, because the records they are looking at, there's no money there. They are looking at the numident. The money is issued out of the MBR. I give it as this kind of an example. So you go to a restaurant and you have a bill, you go up to the cashier and they've got the little slot there where you put your credit card in. Next time, when they tell you to put your credit card in the slot, pull out your driver's license. Try your driver's license. That's basically what DOGE was doing. They were trying to put their driver's license in the little credit card slot. That's how much they know about Social Security. So And the overpayment thing, they said, okay, we're going to hold back 10% of overpayments. We're going to hold back 100% of overpayments. They just changed it a few days now. Now we're going to hold back 50% of overpayments. We're going to make everybody go down to the local Social Security office. Okay, we're going to only make these people go down to the local Social Security office to prove this, that, and the other. Oh, okay, we're not going to make people do this anymore because of this, that, and the other. So they really need someone on their team that knows what they're doing. And people will say, Ed, why don't you volunteer? I have volunteered several times, and they have no interest in getting people that actually know what they're doing, because perhaps they're not really looking for fraud, waste, and abuse. If they actually were, they would have found some by now. But I don't think they're interested in actually finding fraud, waste, and abuse. They have perhaps some other ulterior motives that I'm sure you can figure out for yourself. But if they were looking for fraud, waste, and abuse, is there fraud, waste, and abuse at Social Security? Absolutely. People are receiving disability benefits that are still working. People are receiving disability benefits that are not disabled. People are receiving SSI that have other income and resources. But that's not the kind of the small type of thing they're looking at. They're looking, for 20 million, zombies receiving Social Security benefits, and 1.3 million non-citizens receiving Medicaid. Or they actually changed it the next day and they said they're receiving Medicare. And then they said, no, Medicaid. They don't know the difference between Medicaid and Medicare. So they really need someone on their team. So if, Elon Musk, any of these guys want to contact me, and I can teach them, watch my videos, and they can, learn about Social Security before they go in there. So I think that's kind of the judge's intent is, hey, number one, y'all need to know what you're doing before you go in there. Number two, do you really need to, all of the details of these particular individuals? Do you actually need their names and social security number? If you're actually can fraud, waste, and abuse, you don't really need that information. You can look at fraud, waste, and abuse without connecting to particular people until you are going to be arresting those people. And then when you arrest those people, then you can work with law enforcement, Office of the Inspector General, FBI, or whatever the case may be. But until then, it's a fishing expedition. There is another thing that's happened. I'll get into the Q&A here in a bit, but there's another thing that happened, the Freedom of Information Act. So DOGE and Elon Musk said, hey, we're the most transparent thing that's ever happened, but they're saying you're not allowed to oversee us. You're not allowed to look at our records. So there's a lot of people, a lot of organizations that requested from DOGE, hey, we want information of what you all been doing in Social Security, Department of Labor, whatever the IRS. We want information. What the heck have you all been doing in there? And DOGE and Elon Musk says, well, no, hey, if you need help with Medicare, Medicare Advantage, Medicare supplements, Part D plans, make sure you reach out to my partners at Chapter Medicare. I looked for a place that would help you all out, and Chapter Medicare knocked it out of the park. They've got excellent customer service. They look at every single plan in your area, and their help is always 100% free. Give them a call, and they'll see if they can help you out, and tell them Dr. Ed said hi. You can't get that information. Like every other organization, governmental organization, you have a Freedom of Information Act, and the judge says, no, you have to give that information. So they're fighting that now. So we'll see what happens with that going forward. Okay, so I just wanted to jump in here and give some updates on those things. So let's make sure we watch what's going on. If you don't want your private information to be turned over to Elon Musk and DOGE, then you need to reach out to your politicians and definitely let them know. And thank you for Bella for mentioning the DOGE Freedom of Information Act. That's why I went ahead and put it up there. I appreciate that. All right. Kathy says, why do they want this information? What do they plan to do with it? Why is he not being stopped? Yes. I mean, again, fraud, waste, and abuse, Social Security employees, the Office of Inspector General find fraud, waste, and abuse on a daily, weekly basis. All you have to do is Google in your state, local woman, local man, Social Security fraud, and you'll find something within the last few months of Social Security people finding someone that's defrauding the system. But DOGE and Elon Musk have found zero. If you have found an actual story of DOGE and Elon Musk actually finding fraud at Social Security, make sure you put it in the chat or the description if you're watching this on a recording later. But just don't say an allegation. They say this, that, and the other. I mean, an actual case where they found fraud, waste, and abuse. Because it's easy to find, but they're not looking for it. So they'll get everyone's info, legislators wealthy, everyone's wonder what came of it, where the Department of Labor files immediately sent to a Russian. Yeah, that's been kind of reported there. So we'll see what's. I think the Government Accountability Office, which is another agency that actually finds fraud, waste, and abuse, and they find fraud, waste, and abuse all the time. The Government Accountability Office is doing a review of what DOGE has done at the Department of Labor. I'm not sure why they didn't start with the Social Security Administration. They should really look and see what's going on there. And for those out there that say I'm just a hater on DOGE and Elon Musk or whatever, if you go back to my videos when they first started out, I said, hey, there's great potential for the computer system needs to be updated. Social Security has been begging Congress for decades to let them update the computer system, and Congress has always said no. There's always been a great need for stuff like this, but why aren't they doing it? Why are they talking about completely irrelevant stuff that means nothing? Can anyone answer this? Is it mandatory to create an account with login in order to receive your monthly Social Security check? No, it is not. Thank you for bringing that up. There's a lot of social media land BS out there about this clickbait type stuff where it's just, some article. There's a couple of news websites out of Spain that talk about this stuff all the time. They take advantage of people, and they run these BS stories. No, what it is if you want to get in to your Social Security account, My Social Security through SSA.gov, if you want to go in there and get that, then you have to set up a login account. If you set up an account like 5 or 10 years ago, that doesn't matter. The new system that came out within the last year or so, you had to upgrade to the new system. And if you don't upgrade to the new system, then you just can't get online and do stuff online. But if you don't want to do stuff online, then you don't have to set up an account, and it's not going to affect anything whatsoever. So those organizations and social media people out there doing stories like that, please stop. You're freaking people out. So we must have the right to privacy. Yes. How are they legally allowed to get this information? Isn't there HIPAA laws that make it this illegal? Yeah, you can't get that information. And again, when these private companies, these accounting firms that sent people in, and these guys knew what they're talking about. So the people that always came to my office, again, we always pass with flying colors. Although every now and then we get dinged on a couple of things. I have one of our claim specialists that having a husband and wife there. And one of the things we got dinged on was the attestation. Do you agree that this information is true and correct to the best of your knowledge? Yada, yada, yada. And they read it to the husband, but they needed to read it to the wife a second time, even though they were both listening at the same time. And Ernst & Young said, you're supposed to read that statement both, even though, yes, they understand you had to read it both two times. So that's what we got dinged on. So other than that, everything was flying colors. So but yeah, and these guys know what they're talking about when they came in. So it's easy to track you with this info. Also, they make money selling people's info. Yes, I mean that's the thing of the future, isn't it? People with information, and particularly an ability to process all of that new information that they have on everybody's lives based on artificial intelligence. If you've got hundreds of millions of records. It's kind of like a crapshoot, whether you're going to get messed with. But now that they've got AI, so much more. Yeah. Let me see. After receiving Social Security for the past 7 years, my last check was reduced by about $200. Any idea why? By about $200. That sounds like a Part B, Medicare Part B type of issue. Medicare Part B is $185. I'm just kind of guesstimating here based on your question. So $200 sounds like a Part B type thing. Possibly you were receiving Medicaid from your particular state, and this is what's called the Medicare Savings Program. If you or anybody out there is having difficult paying the $185 Part B, tell them to reach out to your state Medicaid office and apply for Medicaid, and then the state just might pay for your Part B. So it sounds like in this case, the state was paying for your Part B premium, and now they're not. So you've lost Medicaid or you've lost that level of Medicaid. There's several different levels of Medicaid. So you might have lost that Medicaid, that level, and therefore they're not paying for your $185. So I would check that out. If you did, and you also have a Medicare Advantage dual eligible plan, then you're also going to lose that dual eligible plan and you need to find something else. So you can reach out to Chapter there. They can help you 100% for free to see if there's anything in there. And they can also check to see if your $185 is being paid.